Hi friends, this is Katie with Katie on the Spot. Today we are going to be talking about protected versus unprotected pieces and what you can expect from a warm liquid spill. Specifically, today we're going to be working with coffee, and I have a set of my Meemaw sailboat mugs, and I have a protected cushion and an unprotected piece of carpet. And we're going to explore a little bit of physics and some of these irrefutable laws of nature that I have no control over. So, first and foremost, congratulations on having something protected, especially if you chose fiber protector, because it's going to make your life a whole lot easier. From simple maintenance to, oh, something horrendous has happened and I do need to call in a professional cleaner, it's going to make the outcome much more favorable. So let's go ahead and spill a little bit of coffee on an unprotected carpet and a protected cushion. You can see there's a little bit of beading up here. This just penetrated right into the fibers and is going to need a whole lot of work in the future. When it comes to coffee, especially, our first question as cleaners is, was it regular or decaf? Not because we're casting judgment on you, but we do prefer caffeine for sure. We want to know if it's regular or decaf because a lot of times the decaffeination process will lighten the color of the coffee, and then the manufacturer will go ahead and add in some colorants like that caramel color and some other um, dyes, synthetic dyes that are going to make cleaning a little bit trickier. So, regular or decaf, and how high and how hot? Was it piping hot? This is pretty hot. I just made this. And then how high? So you can tell that I just kind of tipped it over a little bit, but um, I'm going to protect my pants here. If if you're walking and you trip and spill something, woo, it's first of all going to make a much larger mess, and there's going to be a lot more like peripheral splatters that need to be dealt with. But you can tell that this did not beat up very much. It just kind of went right in. But it was protected. I thought it was supposed to beat up on the surface. What's going on here? Well, let's take a minute and have a chat. Ooh, that is strong. So, first of all, when you do spill something, go ahead and blot it up because, as my dad says, we're not making wine and this is not going to get better with age. So, we're going to want to go ahead and blot up as much as we can as soon as we can. And you can add a little bit of water and have a damp towel that'll help dilute some of that. But I'm not scrubbing, I'm just gently pressing because we're not trying to change the texture of the fabric here. So, um, liquids, especially water, it's going to have a bond of water molecules on the surface and throughout the cup of the water, for example. So the bond on the surface of the water or of the liquid is going to be much stronger, and throughout the cup is going to be a little bit less. So for example, you've got a feather that sits on top of the water on a lake. When that feather gets wet completely, it's just going to sink right down to the bottom because there's much less surface tension in that water once you're under the surface. All right. So we've got a warm liquid, and every 20 degrees Celsius above 20 degrees, which is about 68 degrees, about room temperature, 68 Fahrenheit. So every 20 Celsius, which is going to be around 34 degrees Fahrenheit, you are going to exponentially change the surface tension of the liquid, meaning it's going to penetrate a whole lot easier as you get warmer. So, depending on what kind of fiber or rug the warm liquid has spilled onto, is kind of going to determine how it reacts. So we've got a woven cushion here, and when they're woven, they can be a loose weave where you can almost see through some of the fibers. It can be a very tightly woven piece where there's not a whole lot of airspace between. Imagine a screen on a window. That's going to be a very simple example of a woven piece. At some point, you can smear a stick of butter on that screen and wipe it off and get all the butter off of the screen itself. But there will still be butter in the tiny little airspace in between the woven components of the screen. And that's what's happening here. All right, especially if it was protected. So the fiber protector will fill in all of the voids on the surface area of that fiber, including the dye sites, and it's going to make liquids much less likely to penetrate oily soiling and dry soiling. There's just no more nooks and crannies for soiling to get lodged into. So the higher you are, the more gravity and inertia there will be as your liquid hits the surface. And depending on the weave of the fiber, how loose or how tight the knots or the face yarns of the pile of the carpet are, will kind of determine how the liquid can find its way into that airspace in between those fibers. Doesn't mean the protector's not working. The actual fibers themselves in the protected piece are still protected. It just may mean you need to use a little bit of spot cleaner. You may need to use a little bit of extraction, like a shop vac, to help facilitate the cleaning process. In contrast to the hot liquids, we've got just regular room temperature water here, and you can see that it almost sits on the surface even of an unprotected carpet. And probably gonna make a mess here, but on my protected sofa cushion, it is just chilling and rolling around. And from a higher pour, it kind of jumps straight down and absorbs into, see, we got what, half an inch here of fibers and airspace for things to get lodged into. With the, ooh, almost lost that. With a piece of upholstery, we have 2 millimeters, 3 millimeters. There's not a whole lot of wiggle room and a whole lot of space. Let's find a dry spot for this one. Even from a high pour, there's a little bit of repellency, but you can kind of tell at the point of the greatest impact where it's looking like it's wetting out a little bit. And that is one of those laws of physics that we have no control over. It just may mean a little bit of additional spot cleaning. So, blot, don't scrub, respect physics, and drink regular coffee.